I just barely retired, and for years when I was teaching fourth grade, I'd have my students write these essays, and this is my first year to be judge over them. I always thought it was a great program when I was having my students do it. The last 20 years, I thought I didn't teach the grade level that did this, but over 20 years ago, we were doing this anyway. It was amazing to me to read all the essays and learn about the students' great-great-grandparents and grandparents and everything like this, and the fascinating stories they told and how it helped them get closer to one of their ancestors, which is the purpose of this. And this year we had about a stack this high of essays. There was almost around 170 essays turned in, mainly thanks to teachers like Brian Hall here at Valley Academy, and the teachers over to Three Falls Elementary. They turned in by far the most essays of any of the schools. So I really thank Valley Academy and Three Falls Elementary for encouraging their students to write these essays. Our winner for overall tonight for the Hurricane Valley includes Three Falls Elementary, Hurricane Elementary, Laverton, Valley, Springdale, all through there. Our winner is sitting over here, Elizabeth Hardinger. If you'd like to come on up. And when I was judging them, one of the main things I looked for, there was this question: how has coming to know your ancestor affected or changed your feelings towards them? And this is what Elizabeth has written down. She said, coming to know, this is her second great-grandmother, Martha Elizabeth Stoddard. Coming to know Martha has changed my feelings to her. That I am proud of my family more and more by doing this essay. Plus, I'm happy to know her a lot better than before and how they lived together as a family. She was strong and loving to her family and always helped others with a big welcome. Also, I am impressed with her and how she made it with 16 kids to be adults. I am proud of her, and after you read my essay, I hope you will be too. Thank you.
So also before I tell you my essay, I want to thank the Sons of the Utah Pioneers for this opportunity to share my pioneer ancestor story. So my pioneer essay is about my second great-grandma, Martha Elizabeth Stoddard, and she was born beautifully on November 4th, 1864 in Twelve, Utah. At the age of 9, she was baptized and confirmed a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints by her father, Oscar Orlando Stoddard, on August 7, 1873. Martha's father was the captain of the very last handcart company that crossed the plains to Utah in 1860. During his life, he crossed the plains 7 times and went on 3 missions for the church. Martha was the oldest daughter in her family. She was the third of 9 children. As the daughter of Captain Stoddard, she had pretty good schooling and had good hands-on experience making a home and raising a family. Her mother, Elizabeth Taylor, taught her to cook, sew, and wash laundry. As a child, Martha would gather shreds and tags of wool from the brush, fences, etc. that had been left behind by the sheep passing through. She was taught to pick the wool apart and wash it. She carded the wool by using 2 handheld paddles. The paddles had pins in them that would help pull the wool and turn it into quill filling. Martha was a hard worker. She tackled any job she could find. As a teenager, she worked away from home and cooked for the men in Cloville, Utah. When she was there, she cooked for her future husband, Charles Wayman, my second great-grandpa. They were married on October 4th, 1883, in the old endowment house in Salt Lake City, Utah. Just under a year after they were married, their first child was born. It was a girl. She was named Margaret Elizabeth. But the name her parents called her was Maggie for short. The little family moved from Twella, Utah to Montgomery County, Utah, while Maggie was still a baby. They lived in a little log house that Charles built for his family. They tragically lost their second child, Mabel, when she drowned in a water hole. She was just 13 months old. They had 11 more children while they lived in their little log house in Mullen. Before the 12th child was born, the family moved into a newer and larger house on the homestead. Their new home was built a few miles northeast of the town of Farron, Utah. Martha loved the family she grew up in, and so she named many of her own children after them. Her babies were born almost every year. Their names were, from oldest to youngest, Maggie, born in 1884, Mabel, Orlando, Walter, Lillian, Oscar, Martha, Robert, William, Daniel, Hugh, Mary, Fred, born on his mother's birthday, November 4th, 1900, Leo and Maria, born on Christmas Day in 1903, Laura and Arnold, who was my great-grandfather, was born in 1908. Martha received her patriarchal blessing when she was 15 years old. Part of her blessing says, "Lo, lift up thy head and rejoice, for the day is coming when thou wilt behold thyself a mother in Israel, in very deed, surrounded with lively and lovely children." Out of the 17 children she raised 10 boys. It is difficult to guess which ones were lively and which ones were lovely. In our family history box, there's a little line of paper dolls that my mom helped me cut out and label with each one of Martha's children's names. My mom wanted me to see just how many 17 children were. And I have these paper dolls that we made right here. It shows when they were born and if they were a boy or if they were girls. And also, raising such a large family on the frontier, Martha had many heartaches, worries, and difficult trials. The children were taught like she had been to help the younger children. They didn't have many of the things we have, such as electricity, gas, ovens, etc., but also animal cars. Frontier's life was very hard, and Martha had to use all of her skills, wit, and love to take care of her very large family. She made many sacrifices and worked very hard. On one occasion, Martha was traveling into town with a horse and buggy. She had a few of her small children and dozens of fresh eggs. She was planning on trading in the town. On the way, as they passed through a short valley, she noticed two large bulls fighting back and forth with each other. Suddenly, the two bulls began chasing after the buggy. Martha got the horse moving as fast as she could to escape the bulls. She and her children all ended up safe and sound. But they didn't have one egg that wasn't scrambled by the time they reached the top of the valley. But their family was way more important than the eggs. One of the things our children and grandchildren remember her saying often is, "We can't always help being poor, but we can help being dirty." With her, cleanliness was next to godliness. Martha did their laundry on a washboard and used a clothes stomper by hand. A clothes stomper was a stick with a foot-shaped board on the bottom that you put in a bucket with the clothes, soap, and water. She also boiled her clothes to whiten and get the dirt off them. Martha made her own homemade laundry soap made of lye, water, and cracklings, which are made from fried animal skin and fat. She also made her own burnt salve. Some ingredients included in the salve recipe were clean raspberry and peach leaves. She ironed without an iron board, and the irons were heated on top of a wood-burning stove. Martha's children didn't have enough clothing for each child to have clean clothes to wear every day. She would give a few of the children a bath each evening and wash their clothes each night, so some of the other children could have clean clothes for the next day. There were many social events that the family was unable to attend because they didn't have enough clothing. Martha used the skills she learned as a child to help make clothes for her large family. She spun wool from their sheep to knit stockings, sweaters, and other clothing to keep her family warm. One pair of shoes was provided for each child in the fall. The shoes were expected to last through the winter until spring, or what they called barefoot season. Martha also made her own yeast by using thick, cooled potato water and sugar, fermented with a pinch of baking soda. She made the most delicious, finely textured, and soft white bread anyone could ever hope to eat. Honey was used in place of sugar because they raised honeybees. The family would spend days and days gathering honey from the honeycombs. It was common to see 100 5-gallon cans of honey all around the homestead. The family grew and prospered. They eventually built a new home made of brick. They had 4 bedrooms and an upstairs and a cellar under the house so they could store fruit and other food items. Martha was especially happy and excited about the new house because she finally had a kitchen with running water. A big tank full of water had been built on a hill not far from her home, and a water line was connected from it to the kitchen. The bricks used to build their home were made with clay from the nearby town of Farron. Eventually, the bricks from Martha's home would be reused and passed down through the generations of my family. My grandma, Sharon Brown Wayman, also lived on the bench after she married Arnold Wayman Jr. And she raised her family on that farm. She could see Martha's old orchard across the field out of her kitchen window. Over the years, my grandma gathered bricks from the remains of Martha's brick house and used them to help lay out her garden and landscaping. After my grandma Wayman passed away, my mom made a special trip to Farron to gather up the brick. With the help of my father, she loaded them up and hauled them back to Vernal, Utah, where we were living at the time. She used the bricks to make a wonderful brick path on the north side of our home in Vernal. 3 years ago, we moved here to Hurricane. Me and my family were all disappointed to leave the brick path behind. My mother had 2 extra bricks that she hadn't used to make the path. She brought those 2 bricks with us so we could remember the story of our pioneer ancestors, the difficult lives they lived, and the legacy of faith, hard work, and sacrifice they left for us to build our lives on. And also, we have one of the bricks that wasn't made from the brick path. That was built in the house. And also, as Martha's children grew and had families of their own, she was always happy when they came to visit. She would cook meals with stewed pork, potatoes, carrots, onion, also sometimes noodles or dumplings. She made her special bread and butter, yummy applesauce cake, freshly stewed fruit with milk, which actually sounds gross to me. Even though there were often many people in her home, she always had enough for one more. She would just add more water to her soup. She made everyone feel welcome at her table. One of the more memorable times for the family happened each year in the month of March. Martha and her family celebrated her husband's birthday. Charles was born March 1st, 1860. For my second great-grandpa's birthday, there was always a big family get-together. They always had plenty of food and a good time celebrating, which became a fun and festive reunion. Martha enjoyed being around her grandchildren, and she sewed things for them and was kind to them. Martha was loved and cherished by her children, and especially her grandchildren. The saying, "God couldn't be everywhere, so he made mothers," described her well. In Martha's later years, her husband Charles gave her a 4-wheeled black-top buggy. She traveled all over Emory County to attend the Latter-day Saint conferences 4 times a year. During her life, she visited just about every home in Farron as a visiting teacher. Martha's family were very grateful for what they had, and I bet they would have never fought over the TV remote. They had hard times, but they went through life together as a family. The trials they had worked through taught them that they needed to work together and not be selfish with each other. Working together as a family gave them some happiness, and we can all learn from their example. Martha always said what was on her mind. She was honest and expected everyone else to be honest. She had worked so very hard and gave her life in the service of her family and others. She passed away from this life on July 6, 1928, at the age of 64 in Farron, Emory County, Utah. It would be hard for the family to lose such an extraordinary woman, my great-great-grandmother, who I was named after, Martha Elizabeth Stoddard. Thank you.